Hey folks, welcome back to Mark Kelly Farm. Beautiful, cool morning here in Nebraska. The best time to be out in the garden. We've got quite a bit to do, so stick around. We'll give you an update on everything and you can follow along. Got some important stuff to take care of. You can see our greenhouse is finally cleaned out. We've got everything that we're going to plant planted. Just need to come in here and sweep the floor a little bit. And we still have our fan that we need to install, but it's not quite as pressing as a problem as it was earlier. We just used the box fan in the window, but we'll get that installed here sooner or later. Got a fresh manicure on the grass out here, or the weeds. We call it grass. But I love the way things look when they're all nicely manicured. So let's go out in the garden. There's plenty to do out there, but I'll show you around a little bit first. If you're new to the channel, my wife Kelly and I have a little homestead here in Nebraska, central Nebraska. And we do a little gardening, we do some canning, we do lots of stuff that people used to do years ago that don't do so much anymore. So if you're one of those people that like to learn how to do this stuff or enjoy seeing it, this is your channel. All right, we're out here in our garden. We've had a very nice garden year this year. And if you're not familiar with what we have going on out here, we use the mulch method for our gardening, which keeps the weeds down. We go down through the rows early in the year before we plant out, and we put mulch on the planting rows, and that keeps the weeds down. And then on the walk path, we just go through here either with the rototiller or the wheel hoe that we have here. It's my grandfather's wheel hoe. They bought it back in 1931. I remodeled it or refurbished it. And then I did an addition here recently. I bought the oscillating hoe attachment for it. And I can't say enough about that. It's been a real game changer out here. With the tillage equipment we had for this wheel hoe, when you would do the walk paths out here, some of the weeds would go in between the tines and you wouldn't get them. This is a 12-inch oscillating hoe and nothing gets past that. There's no way to get around it. Whatever you run that through is going to be gone. And we've got a lot of rain here recently. One storm even gave us like 3 inches of rain. And the garden loves rain. A garden would much rather have rain than groundwater or tap water. And it just springs to life when you get rain. So let's continue on here in the garden. We'll show you what else is going on. But we're real pleased with this row of onions. We have purple or red, white, and yellow. We've got 3 sections in this row. Our zucchini here is doing fantastic. This is probably the best stand of zucchini I've ever had. Just super healthy plants. When we lived out in California, and that's where we're originally from, you had to plant early and a lot because it would grow well for a couple weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks, and then the bugs would absolutely just devastate your plants. So you had to plant more. I've learned here in Nebraska that the bug pressure is nowhere near as bad. So we were able to get by with 5 plants here and had more than enough zucchini than we had back in California. So down further, got the cat, our rooster, letting me know that he's doing his job over there. This is our collard greens. My friend Joe sent me these collard greens. I guess they're a cultivar from the Azores Islands. where my ancestors are from. My ancestors are from Cressida in the Azores. His, I think, were from San Miguel. But these are from the Azores, where they grow really well and they taste really good. It's harvest time again. And then we got just a little spot of dill here. This is volunteer from last year because we planted it here next to our cucumbers. And these are our cucumbers. This year we're not growing the pickling cucumbers. There's the longer green cucumbers, and there's a few in there that we need to pick later on. And these are our green onions, which were basically leftover bulbs from planting our large onion row. We just planted them all in here. They were clear down to the end. We've been using them little by little. We even shared some with some of our friends. And then here's a small little sweet potato patch here on the end. And then we got a couple more little plants there just poked in where we didn't have anything. We're going to come in here later on when Ramona gets up, my granddaughter, and we're going to create a little seed bed here, and we're going to plant some wasabi radish. It's not true wasabi, but it's supposed to taste like wasabi, and it comes in a radish form. So we got those from Baker Creek Seeds. We're going to be putting those in a little bit later. And then here's our one trellis with the I think these are shelling peas on here. Kelly picked them all the other day and shelled them out. If you've seen the pictures we've shared. If you haven't seen Kelly's pictures, go to Mark Kelly Farm on Facebook, and you'll see a lot of the pictures of other stuff that goes on here on the farm. Here's our 2 stevia plants. Right there and right there with a marigold in the middle. Stevia is a natural sweetener. You can use it fresh, muddle those leaves up in something that you want to sweeten. You can dry it and use it that way. Being a diabetic, this is the first time we've grown stevia, so I'm excited to use some of it. Now the rest of this trellis here has our tomatoes on it. We went with 3 varieties of tomatoes. If you're not familiar, the first year we were here, we planted like 18 different varieties of tomatoes. We were trying to see what grew well here and what we liked. So we've settled on Celebrity and let's see what else. We've got Sweet 100s for the cherries, and then Romas for the paste tomatoes or for canning tomatoes. So we got some slicing tomatoes, some cherry tomatoes, and some canning tomatoes. Romas are very good growers. They put on lots of tomatoes, and they're determinate, which means a lot of them come at the same time, which is good when you're canning. This tomato here has got a little bit of blight. We need to come in here and trim off some of those affected limbs, and it'll probably bounce back. But we're also going to come in here, weave our tomatoes in the panel that hasn't been in it yet, and then whatever branches won't weave, we will tie up with some of our green garden wrap. But here's some of our Romas you can already see on the vine there. And then some more dill. Dill is supposed to help with the bugs in tomatoes, but don't know if it does or not, but it's a pretty plant and love the smell. I'll get some of that and I'll rub it in my fingers and smell it while I'm out here. It's like aromatherapy. And then our purple cabbage is just now starting to head. You can see the holes in the leaves. The bugs get a little bit of the outer leaves, but you just trim those outer leaves off and then you're good. This one got hit a little bit harder, but it'll still make a head. This one here has got a little bit better head. And then our green cabbage, if you were with us, we picked a few days ago. We've made a lot with that. We're making some more here today and tomorrow. And then we have our cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels. They got a ways to go. You can see our Brussels down there starting to take off. But we got a little bit of cauliflower and broccoli. Here's some broccoli here, starting to head up. And then on the end of that, we have some celery. We have 5 plants of celery here, and then some basil starting to take off. This was the last thing to come out of the greenhouse. So here is our trellis with our snow peas. Kelly picked these the other day too, and I eat some while I'm out here wandering around in the garden. They're very yummy, very tender, very sweet. My granddaughter Ramona loves these too. Whenever she's out here, she says, "Can I eat a pea, Papa?" I'm like, you don't have to ask, sweetie. Just go after it. So next here in this row, this is our squash and melon row here. And we've got some space here on the end of the row that we can plant some stuff. So our first thing here is some acorn squash. I really like this variety, how it's kind of bush instead of this long running squash like we have down there with the butternut. I really like the bush varieties because they stay out of the row, so I might research some more bush type. If I can find a butternut that does that, that would be great. And then we have one of our watermelons. This is either a crimson sweet or a sugar baby. And you can see we already have melons growing. But those are the 2 varieties of melons that we planted that we enjoy the most. The sugar baby is more of like an icebox melon. It's a small round melon, whereas the crimson sweet is the big longer traditional melon, both with fantastic flavor. This is our cantaloupe. This is our other watermelon. As they grow, I just train them to kind of go down the row so they're not in the walk path like this one here we need to put up on the row there. But here is our butternut squash. Every year our butternut squash just goes crazy. It's going to take over this whole area right here once it gets going. But these down here, I'm probably going to clip these off so they don't encroach too much in on the watermelon and kind of let it sprawl that way. I've planted these 8 feet apart, and they're still getting into each other. Our final row out here on the outside is peppers. We try to put things on the outside that don't go sideways very far, because we only got half a walk path on the end. So we did the onions you saw on the other side, and this side we're doing our peppers. We've got yellow bell peppers, green bell peppers, red bell peppers, or maybe orange. Maybe we didn't do green. But we haven't had a lot of really warm weather. So these peppers are just finally trying to take off, which is pretty nice. These habaneros here on the ends were the last ones that came out of the greenhouse because they were slow germinating. Got a little tiny one here on the end that looks like it's going to make it just fine. That's it for the vegetable garden. We're really proud of it. It looks really nice this year. People always comment, how do you grow a garden without weeds? Well, you don't. You just make sure you stay on top of things is all. And the mulch helps tremendously. I highly recommend the mulching method where you mulch down the row. Walk paths are easy. We've just when we wheel hoed this, we had another good withdrawal from our weed seed bank. And if you don't know what that is there's an amount already of weed seeds in your soil. And if you don't let your weeds grow to seed, those will steadily decline as you maintain your garden. And then you won't have so many the following years. Just stay up on it, and as they sprout, the plant will start to grow. And then when you cut the plant or kill the plant, hoe it up or whatever, it takes care of that weed seed, and then that plant won't grow back unless it's morning glory, which we've had in here, but we've sprayed this year, spot sprayed with Roundup wherever there was some morning glory, and we got rid of a lot of it. And I'm so happy to see that. Morning glory pretty much roots clear to China, and it grows right back from the root. and you cannot get rid of it with a hoe. Like your other weeds, once you hoe them out, they're done. Morning Glory comes right back, doesn't care about your mulch or anything else. Now, you've also heard me say I don't use chemicals in my garden or my fruit trees or anything like that, but I do use a little bit of weed spray around the perimeter fence here. Right along gives me a mow strip, and then I do a strip spray through the fruit trees to mow along there because we have the drip hose that goes down through there. We could have buried it, but some of the trees were already here, so we couldn't run a line under the ground. But you hear a lot of bad things about Roundup and all that, but just doing a little spot spraying here and there is not going to hurt anything as long as you use it safely, wear gloves, don't get any on your skin, and there's no residual effect in the soil that's going to hurt your plants. After a few days, it just kind of evaporates, and you can plant right where you've sprayed. In a couple days, it doesn't hurt your seed germination. There's no pre-emergent value to it. So we'll come back and tie these tomatoes later. We'll give you a little more tour of what else we have going on out here. We have some real exciting news this year. We're really happy. We have apples again. Last year the weather was not conducive to fruit and we didn't get any apples. Luckily we had some canned in the root cellar, but we got a bumper crop of apples this year. We're so pleased with that. And we're gonna can like crazy people once these things are ready. Now our largest apple tree out here has some apples here and there. They're nowhere near the amount that we have on the smaller tree here. This tree, when we got here, was actually laid over on the ground. When we acquired the property, we cut off everything that was on the ground, and we're promoting some more upward growth from this tree, and it's doing really well. It's producing well, still well rooted. This is a giant apple tree. I don't know how long ago this apple tree was planted, but it's a giant of a tree. Pretty neat. We have our little sitting bench out here underneath the apple tree. Now there were 4 apple trees here when we acquired the property. Those 2 giant ones out there, which I can't recall the names of those, but we have them written down. And then we have our 2 Honeycrisp apple right here. This tree here was in terrible shape. We're creating a new tree out of it. It was all broken down. And then this tree here already had a great shape to it. Those are Honeycrisp. And we have yet to get any apples off those. The conditions have not been right. We added 1 apple this last year, a Fuji apple, which I really enjoy Fujis. And then the rest of our fruit orchard here. We've struggled getting the fruit orchard going. We've had a lot of plants or a lot of trees die on us. I don't know if it was the quality of the tree, because some of them were those ones that come in a little plastic bag at your big box store. And they just don't seem to thrive. I don't know if they water those bags after they put them in there, and they just don't grow. You put them in the ground and nothing green comes out on them. So we've discontinued buying those fruit trees, and now we buy them either from a nursery or something that's pre-planted in a pot. The other issue we had with our fruit trees is, you see we have these nice cages around our trees, and the lower part of the cages have a finer mesh to keep the small critters from getting in there and harming the bark on our trees. However, this last year we had 2 foot of snow, which allowed the rabbits to go through these larger holes, and there was a couple trees that they just girdled completely around and killed. Now one of them was this pear tree over here, and we thought it was a total loss, but springtime it took off and started growing just fine. Let's see, it's this one over here. This is our pear. So you can see the bark here where the rabbits chewed it up. Well, the tree actually lived through it, which is amazing. They don't usually. I think it's just because there was just a little bit of bark left on this side that the cambium layer is still intact. But if we do end up losing the top of this tree, we have new growth from below where the animals damaged it, we could snip this trunk off here, and then this here will create a new tree. But since then, we've put these plastic guards on the bottom of our trees, which we should have done in the first place. A couple of them came with them in the pots, but we ordered some up, and that's going to help unless we get 2 feet of snow again. And if we do, I'm going to have to wrap the top of this cage with a tighter mesh wire. This is one of our peach trees here. Let's see what variety this is. Oh, I haven't named this one yet because it's a new one. I need to stamp our tag here. I still have the paper tag down there. Maybe we'll do that today too. Get our name on our trees. That was a project we did, if you didn't remember. Just these little squares of aluminum, and then you stamp what your tree is, and then you can remember the variety. Our grape trellis that we did, we have 2 varieties of grapes that are doing good. For some reason, our center variety here, I can't remember what the variety is. It's either a Red Swenson or a Catawba. This is a Concord. For some reason, our trellis portion up here is not sprouting, but we do have sprouts down here. So what we're going to have to do is we'll cut this cane later on in the year when it's time to prune. We'll let this one grow. We don't want to mess with it now because those snap off really easy. And then we'll use this cane to start a new vine up here. But the other grapes are doing okay. They're just now really taking off. See, we have some grape clusters in and around here. We have a little pest pressure going on, but we just deal with that. But you can see our Concord grape down here is doing really well. Boy, you just can't beat the views out here in Nebraska. Just love it. The grass looks like it's turning brown, but that's actually the seed heads on top of the buffalo grass. It's actually quite green. But all that buffalo grass out there is going to seed. We got the neighbor's corn next door. But this is a great time of year. Everything's beautiful and green. This will all grow back. This was all torn up when we did our hydrant project. Our lavender here in the pot, we've already harvested a couple times. This is edible lavender. We love it in a sugar cookie recipe. It's fantastic. But we grow it in a pot because in the winter we take the pot and we put it in the garage, and it overwinters fine in the garage. Kelly's flowers looking really good this year. We need to deadhead the roses here. They did fantastic this year. They were beautiful. But whatever this plant is, it's just getting ready to flower. But Kelly's flowers are doing good. She's got her hanging baskets here in the front. Now, my absolute favorite thing on the property is this, our American flag out front. The previous owner put that there to catch lightning because he had a pretty nasty lightning strike here on the house one time. So he said, I'm going to put up something for that lightning to hit. And that's why he put up that big aluminum flagpole. But we love flying Old Glory out there. Now, my second favorite thing on the farm is our Benzebo. I absolutely love this thing. It was such a fun project. It's not even all the way done yet, but we have just a couple little cosmetic things to do. But we spend a lot of time out here in our Benzebo. It used to be located over there where the chicken coop now stands. It was on the end of the shop, and that's where it sat. There were several bins on this property. There was one up here on this plateau here where this tree is now. And then there was corn cribs all back behind this area. I'll flash you a picture of the old property real quick. All right, folks, we're going to make that the end of our garden tour this morning. I hope you enjoyed the little update. And if you haven't visited our channel before, we appreciate the watch. If you could give us the thumbs up, it really helps us get out to more people because of the algorithm. Your video's got to be well liked before YouTube will put it out to the masses, and we like to help as many people as we can. We don't do this to make a living. We just do this to help people and teach people the old way to do things, and you got to reach those people to get that done. So a thumbs up really helps out with that if you can give us one of those. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. We hope you come back and see us here on Mark Kelly Farm. We have a lot of canning and other things coming up with the garden in full tilt right now. It's go time with the garden. We're going to run out there right now and tie up those tomatoes and pick a few things, and we will be done with the gardening for today, because gardening is best done in the morning, folks, when it's nice and cool. So see you next time.